The first people in America, the beginning of U.S. history. When people think about the history of the United States, they often begin with the arrival of Europeans. However, the real story starts thousands of years earlier with the first people who reached North America. Long before cities, presidents, or the Declaration of Independence, native peoples had already built thriving communities across the continent. Scientists believe that the first humans arrived in North America during the last ice age, around 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. At that time, sea levels were much lower because so much water was frozen in giant glaciers. A land bridge called Beringia connected what is now Siberia in Asia with Alaska in North America. Small groups of hunter-gatherers crossed this land bridge in search of food, following herds of large animals such as mammoths and bison. These early people were highly skilled survivors. They made stone tools, hunted wild animals, gathered fruits and plants, and adapted to different climates. Over thousands of years, they spread across the continent, from the frozen Arctic to the deserts of the Southwest and the forests of the East. As time passed, different cultures developed in different regions. Each group adapted to its local environment, creating unique traditions, languages, and ways of life. There was no single Native American culture. Instead, hundreds of nations and tribes existed, each with its own identity. In the Southwest, people such as the ancestors of the Pueblo built homes from stone and adobe. They became skilled farmers, growing corn, beans, and squash, using advanced irrigation systems. Their villages included large apartment-style buildings that could house many families. In the eastern woodlands, tribes lived in forests filled with rivers and wildlife. They hunted deer, fished, and farmed. Some built longhouses made from wood and bark, while others lived in smaller villages surrounded by fields. The Great Plains were home to groups that followed massive herds of bison. Every part of the animal was used for food, clothing, shelter, and tools. This sustainable lifestyle allowed these communities to thrive for generations. In the Pacific Northwest, abundant forests and rivers provided salmon, cedar trees, and other natural resources. People built large wooden houses and created impressive totem poles that represented family histories and beliefs. One of the most remarkable native civilizations was the Mississippian culture. Around 800 CE, they built large cities with massive earthen mounds. The city of Cahokia, located near present-day St. Louis, became the largest city north of Mexico before European contact. At its peak, Cahokia may have had more than 20,000 residents, making it larger than many European cities of the same period. Native Americans developed extensive trade networks across North America. Seashells from the Gulf Coast, copper from the Great Lakes, and obsidian from the Rocky Mountains traveled hundreds of miles through trade. These exchanges spread goods, ideas, and technologies between distant communities. Religion played an important role in native life. Many tribes believed that humans, animals, plants, and nature were deeply connected. Ceremonies celebrated the seasons, successful hunts, harvests, and important life events. Elders passed down history through oral storytelling, preserving traditions for future generations. By the late 1400s, millions of Native Americans lived throughout North America. Historians estimate that the population ranged from 5 million to more than 10 million people, though exact numbers remain uncertain. The land was far from empty. It was home to diverse societies with complex governments, economies, and cultures. Everything changed in 1492, when the Italian explorer reached the Americas while searching for a westward route to Asia. Although Columbus never landed in what is now the United States, his voyage opened the door to centuries of European exploration and colonization. Soon, explorers from Spain, France, England, and other European nations arrived. They searched for gold, land, and new trade routes. Europeans brought horses, metal tools, firearms, and new crops. They also unintentionally brought deadly diseases, such as smallpox, measles, and influenza. These diseases spread rapidly because Native Americans had no natural immunity. Entire villages were devastated. In some regions, populations declined by more than 80% within a few generations. This tragic loss reshaped the continent long before many Europeans settled permanently. Despite these hardships, Native nations continued to resist, adapt, and preserve their cultures. Many formed alliances, defended their lands, and negotiated with European powers. Their influence shaped the early history of North America in ways that are still felt today. Understanding the history of the United States begins with recognizing the first people who called this land home. They were explorers, builders, farmers, artists, traders, and leaders. Their achievements laid the foundation for thousands of years of human history before the creation of the United States. Today, Native American communities continue to preserve their languages, traditions, and cultures. Across the United States, tribal nations remain an important part of the country's identity and history. Learning about their story reminds us that American history did not begin with European settlement. It began thousands of years earlier with the first people who crossed into a new world and built civilizations that endured for centuries.